Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the frostbitten breath of the world's highest mountains, where something glows through the fog, a single golden lantern flickering all alone. No signs, no wires, no explanation. Just you, your boots, and the growing sense that something ancient might be watching from the whiteness. You trudge through damp clouds that coil like smoke around your ankles. The trail beneath you crackles with brittle ice and tiny broken stones. It's the Himalayas, but not the Everest Base Camp postcards or yoga retreat brochures. This is the forgotten path, tucked somewhere between Nepal and the world behind your eyelids. And yes, you probably won't survive this, but it'll make a killer story for your ghost. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing how far this weird little community reaches. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You spot the lantern just after the ridge turns to shadow. It's not much, a stubby little thing with dented brass edges swaying in a wind you can't feel. It hangs from what might be an old yak pole, or just a leaning stick that somehow refuses to rot, wedged into the cold scree like it belongs there. You pause, breath curling from your lips like dragon smoke, and blink once, twice. Still there. You try logic, maybe a marker left by climbers, but there's no tent, no trail sign, no footprints ahead, only the lantern. The flame isn't orange like you'd expect. It pulses gold, almost white at the center, and casts light that doesn't spill properly. It hugs the snow in strange patterns, like it's more interested in what not to reveal. Naturally, you decide to follow it, because, well, what else is there? That's human curiosity for you. We'll stick a fork in a socket, just to see what kind of dance we do. Step by step, the fog thickens. It curls into the ridges of your ears, soft and damp, muffling everything except your boots and the occasional crack of rock shifting under frost. The lantern bobs slowly, always just ahead. Never closer, never farther. At some point, it feels like you've stepped off the world. The sky isn't overhead anymore. It's around you, dense and greying. You could be 10 feet from the edge of a cliff and wouldn't know until your next breath turns into a scream. Somewhere far below, bells jangle. Just 3 notes. Maybe yak herders. Maybe wind chimes on a ghost's porch. Now here's your first fun fact of the night. Back in the 7th century, Tibetan monks actually did hang enchanted bells in mountain passes to ward off spirits called Gyalpo ghost kings, who were said to trick travelers into walking off cliffs. Charming bunch. But tonight the bells feel inviting, like they're part of the melody the lantern is humming. And yes, it is humming. Not loud, not musical, really. More like a tuning fork buried deep in your bones. You stop to listen, and that's when you notice something else. Your breathing not yours anymore. You inhale, and it's like the air isn't entering your chest. It's entering something, but the sensation skips your body, like your skin has become suggestion instead of structure. Historians still argue whether some ancient Himalayan initiations involved sensory deprivation in the clouds, where shamans believed you could shed the body like a coat. Tonight, that coat's starting to feel loose. You push on. The trail thins, becomes nothing more than a rocky whisper beneath the fog. The lantern dips behind a low rise, and you scramble awkwardly over the crest. There it is again. This time it's not hanging. It's sitting in the snow, right in the middle of a small clearing where the wind never quite lands. Around it, the fog swirls counterclockwise in slow, deliberate spirals. You've seen crop circles right now. Imagine one made of air and cloud instead of wheat. That. You step into the spiral. The humming surges slightly. Your body wants to stop, but your legs do not. And then you hear it, a breath that isn't yours. Slow, ragged, impossibly close. You spin nothing. The lantern flares. For just a second you see something behind the glow. A silhouette. Maybe a person. Maybe not. It vanishes as the flame flickers. And then you realize your own lantern, you were carrying one, right? The little electric headlamp clipped to your collar is dead. You tap it. Nothing. You forgot the batteries. Or maybe it was turned off for you. Quirky tidbit time. Himalayan myth tells of Drainak, or fog spirits that steal fire from the living, believing flame, is a fragment of the soul. Whether that applies to Duracell is up for debate. You're alone, but you're not. You kneel by the lantern. It's warm to the touch but dry. No wax, no oil. Just heat and light coming from nowhere. And now the humming is unmistakable. It has rhythm. Heartbeat slow. It's your cue. Because guess what? You're going uphill. The slope rises ahead steep and veined with narrow rivulets of ice. But the fog disguises its height like a velvet curtain over a trapdoor. The lantern, faithful as ever, lifts again. No visible string, no hand holding it, and drifts upward in that same steady arc. Never hurried, never still. It's like it knows the path better than the mountain itself. You start to climb. Boots sink a little with each step, snow just past the ankle now. Your breath frosts immediately curling in the air, like ghost handwriting always fading before you can read what it says. You slip once, scraping your palm against something not entirely rock, a jagged surface that feels too smooth in places like it was carved or melted. The trail curves sharply, and as you turn, the fog parts just enough to reveal your first real sight of the high valley. A shelf of snow-covered stone juts out ahead, flanked by two massive boulders that look suspiciously placed like sentinels. Beyond them, nothing. A drop too deep to see, a sky too grey to hold. And smack in the center, the lantern, hovering again. This time it's brighter. The glow curls around the rocks and creates long, exaggerated shadows, your own included. Only yours isn't quite right. It moves when you move, sure, but the proportions are wrong. Your arms are too long, the head too narrow, like someone sketched a version of you from memory, then forgot what a human looks like halfway through. You freeze, it freezes. You step left, it steps right. Nope, not your shadow. Not today, doppelganger. And yet, you can't stop watching it. The lantern pulses. You hear that hum again, deeper this time, like it's under your feet now, vibrating up through the soles of your boots into your bones. Here's a morsel from the weird shelves of Himalayan lore. There are stories rarely told and never written of Shenmue mirrors, naturally occurring quartz formations in the mountains that don't just reflect appearance, but essence. According to oral traditions, if your soul is out of balance, the mirror shows what you become on the inside. Let's just say this shadow doesn't look like someone who flosses or pays taxes on time. You walk forward but carefully. The shadow thing mimics again, though now it's moving slightly ahead of you like it's impatient. Like it knows where the trail ends and you do not. The fog thins again, just enough to show a carved path older than anything living. Stone steps uneven and moss-lined emerge from the mountain, like the ribs of a forgotten god. Each one is worn smooth, not by weather, but by use. That's when the air changes. It gets warmer, not in a cozy cocoa by the fire way, more like the inside of a closed mouth, moist, claustrophobic. Your breath stops frosting, but the smell starts wet lichen-scorched metal and something else. Sweet, too sweet, like overripe fruit rotting in the back of a monastery pantry. Now for a legit historical fact to ground us. In the 13th century, the legendary yogi Milarepa was said to have lived in a Himalayan cave where sweet smells brought visions. Some claim it was due to fermented juniper and other herbs. Others say it was the scent of enlightenment or madness, depending on the tour guide. You reach the top of the steps. A small platform opens before you, about the size of a living room, if your living room were designed for sacrificing secrets. The lantern hangs at eye level, suspended from an arch that clearly used to be a gate. No doors, now just 2 vertical stones and a horizontal slab across the top, etched with glyphs in a language that looks disturbingly like it wants to blink. The air here is so still, you're afraid to breathe too hard, like you might disturb something that's been waiting too long. A whisper curls into your ear. Not English, not language exactly, but it means something. You don't know how you know, you just do. Come forward. Ah, great. Voices in your head. That's always a promising sign. You check behind you, no one. Your own shadow's gone now, probably union-mandated break time. The lantern shifts, and as it does, the fog clears just enough to show you what lies beyond the arch. A staircase, straight down, into blackness. No walls, no handrails, no switchbacks. Just a staircase leading into the heart of the mountain. Now, if you've watched enough horror movies, this is your cue to turn around. But let's be honest, when has anyone ever done that? You step forward. One boot touches the top stair, and it's warm. No snow, no ice, just solid, almost polished stone. The kind of worn smooth that comes from centuries of use. Not erosion. Footsteps. Historians still argue whether secret shrines exist under these mountains. Some point to ancient maps with paths that don't match modern terrain, others to the mysterious heat signatures found by 20th century satellites that were accidentally scrubbed from the records. You know, because secrets are fun. You descend. With each step, the darkness presses closer. But the lantern floats ahead, 1 or 2 stairs below, you always keeping the next bit of path barely visible. And then you hear breathing again, but this time it's not yours, and it's not close. It's everywhere. 100 sighs, 1,000 exhalations, all coming from the walls or the air or something beneath the stone. And it doesn't sound human. It sounds old, dry, as if the mountain itself is dreaming about you. The lantern dips out of sight below a final step, and you follow. The stairs open into a chamber. You can't see the walls. The light isn't strong enough. But the ceiling arches high above you, visible only because it's speckled with faint glowing dots, like stars. Only they move, slow spirals, small flares. A sky inside the earth. You step forward and realize the floor is covered in shallow water. Just an inch. It doesn't splash. It ripples with your every movement, light bending strangely across its surface. And there in the center, the lantern floats just above the water, directly over a carved symbol that looks like a spiral. And a flame had a complicated baby. You've arrived. You just don't know where yet. The chamber feels alive. You don't mean that in a cute little elves hiding in the walls kind of way. No, this is deeper, weirder. The kind of alive that breathes with no lungs, thinks with no brain. The still air hums, but not from your lantern. This hum is more internal, like when you've sat too long in silence and start hearing your own blood. Except it's not your blood. It's something older. You step deeper into the water. It's not cold, surprisingly. Not warm either. Just neutral. But the way it clings to your boots feels off. There's surface tension, where there shouldn't be any, like it's resisting your movement, reluctantly letting you pass. You glance down, and for the first time notice that your reflection isn't behaving. Oh, it's moving all right. But it's not moving with you. It lags twitches, occasionally turns its head when you don't, and its eyes, they glow slightly. Just 2 pale pinpricks, like fireflies underwater. You don't want to know what that means. Ahead, the lantern waits. You walk toward it, and with each step, the dots on the ceiling flicker. Some pulse like heartbeat monitors. Others shimmer and fade entirely. If you're keeping track, and of course you are, you count 12 flickering above your head as you reach the symbol beneath the lantern. Spiral meets flame carved into the stone and half submerged. You kneel beside it, and for a second everything stops. No sound, no motion. Even the lantern halts mid-flicker, as though the whole chamber has hit pause. Then you hear it, a laugh, but not out loud. Inside your head again, the same place where the whisper spoke. This laugh is low-measured, almost amused. The way someone chuckles when you finally notice the trap they've set, and you're standing ankle-deep in it. A memory tickles the edge of your mind, one of those fringe Himalayan legends you dismissed when you first heard it, the Senge Tsung, or lion bone shrine. Not a shrine made of lion bones, a shrine that grows bones, specifically from anyone foolish enough to walk inside. Supposedly built by a sect of ascetic monks who believed the spirit must shed its flesh in sacred spaces. You laughed at the idea once. You're not laughing now. The hum returns. Only this time it's clearly coming from the symbol. And it's no longer just a sound. It's pressure. Like a low-frequency bass note, thrumming up through your knees into your chest. You feel the vibration tickle your teeth, settle behind your eyes. The spiral lights up. Not bright, not dramatic. Just a soft glow like old embers stirring under ash. The symbol pulses once, then again. The water ripples outward in a perfect circle, and the lantern drops straight down. No splash, no ripple, just gone. You lurch forward, instinctively reaching, but there's nothing. Just the symbol glowing softly beneath the surface. The water has stilled again, but now it reflects something new. Not the ceiling, not your warped little twin. No, now you see faces, dozens, maybe hundreds, all staring upward from below the waterline. Some ancient and eroded like statues left in rain. Others sharp too, real like snapshots frozen in glass. All of them watching you, not blinking, not breathing. You scramble back, standing up too fast and nearly losing your balance. Water sloshes and the faces vanish instantly. You're panting now, but the chamber offers no breeze, no relief, just stillness. Then something shifts, a scraping sound, stone on stone. Directly behind you, you turn. A new doorway. It wasn't there a moment ago. No mistaking that. Where solid rock once sat, a narrow corridor now yawns open. The walls on either side curve inward slightly, like they're trying to touch above your head. No light, no lantern. Just the same thick darkness as before. And of course, because you've clearly made a series of excellent life choices, you step inside. As you walk, your boots now echo slightly. The corridor is dry, bone dry. Dust puffs with each step. The scent changes again, earthier. Burnt cinnamon mixed with iron and something that might be saffron. Maybe just wishful thinking. A few steps and your hand brushes the wall. Not stone, bone. You freeze. Run your fingers across it again, slower. It's smooth, but the texture's wrong for rock. It gives slightly under pressure, has ridges, patterns, ribs. You're inside something's ribcage, large, too large. And the deeper you go, the more you feel it. This wasn't carved. It grew this way. The walls pulse slightly now, almost imperceptibly, like the distant memory of breath. You can't help but think, what if this whole mountain is a creature that hasn't finished dreaming yet? Or worse, what if it just woke up? Let's break the tension with a historical fun fact, shall we? In 1904, during the Young Husband expedition into Tibet, British soldiers recorded strange seismic readings in Himalayan caves. Vibrations, unlike any tectonic activity described, as the steady beat of enormous buried drums. Official reports blame loose stones. But between you and me, rocks don't keep rhythm. The corridor tightens now. You duck. Then suddenly you're out. You've entered another chamber. Much smaller than the last and oddly cozy. Ceiling low walls curved, like a womb made of fossilized silence. And in the center, a raised stone basin. Inside it, the lantern, somehow perfectly dry, perfectly still. It rests on a cushion of woven moss, lush and impossibly green for a place without sunlight. You notice tiny flowers bloom beside it, despite the air being nearly lightless. A few petals drift gently carried by an unfelt breeze. You kneel again, but this time you don't touch it. You wait. The lantern flares, just once, a soft bloom of gold, and then the whisper returns, but clearer. Still not quite words, but closer, like language unzipping itself at the seams. It pours into your skull, not aggressive, but firm, ancient, gentle in the way glaciers are gentle, patient, overwhelming, and utterly impersonal. It shows you images, not memories, not dreams, instructions. Something is coming, and you are now its lantern bearer. You're not sure how long you stay kneeling in front of the lantern. Could be seconds, could be centuries. Time has that annoying habit of slipping its leash in places like this, places that hum with intention, not chronology. But eventually, your knees start to ache. The whisper fades like a signal moving out of range, and the golden glow of the lantern dims to a soft, steady flicker. You reach for it, and this time it lets you. The moment your fingers wrap around its handle, the moss underneath shrivels to dust. The tiny flowers blacken and collapse inward, like they were only blooming to attract you. The warmth in your palm spreads upward, and for a brief moment, your bones itch, ever so slightly, like something's rewiring the way your body fits inside your skin. You rise lantern in hand, and for the first time in what feels like hours, you see another exit. It's not a doorway, more like a tear in the wall. A vertical rip, narrow and pulsing faintly with reddish light. The air around it buzzes with heat distortion, even though the chamber is still cold. You hesitate, but hey, you've come this far. What's one more anatomical metaphor of a tunnel? You step through. The transition is instant. The dusty stillness gives way to warm, wet air. You're inside another passage, this one pulsing like a throat. The walls shimmer with condensation and soft veins of glowing red pulse just beneath the surface. It smells like damp stone and incense. No weight charred offerings, the kind used in old Himalayan fire rituals to ward off malevolent spirits. Juniper, smoke butter, powdered bones, and now, surprise bonus fact, in certain Bon religious rites, monks believed spirits of the land could only be appeased through fire, fed by objects you loved, trinkets, hair-even pieces of your home. The logic: give up something you care about, so the land doesn't take something you really care about instead. Brutal, yes. Effective historians still argue whether the practice actually worked or just helped people feel in control of a chaotic world. Your lantern guides you deeper. Its light seems to focus, now narrowing into a beam, like it knows exactly where to lead you. After several tight turns and increasingly steep inclines, the corridor widens again. The space opens into a circular chamber, a kind of sanctum. And oh, you are not prepared for what's inside. Stone shelves line the walls, each carved with unbelievable detail. But it's not books they hold, not scrolls, not even relics. It's eyes, hundreds of them. Some clearly stone, others disturbingly real, preserved, blinking even, as if they've been watching since the mountain was born. Every single shelf stares down at you, each eye locked on your lantern. Some are human, others no idea. Slit pupils, square pupils. One appears to have an iris shaped like a spiral galaxy. You do your best not to blink back. In the center of the chamber, is a dais with a carved spiral identical to the one from the water chamber. But this one has grooves as though meant to hold the lantern precisely. You hesitate. The last time you set it down, things got weird fast. But that whisper, it's returned. Not speaking exactly. More like tugging gently at the edge of your intention, guiding your thoughts like a hand on your shoulder. And one very clear instruction floats up from that haze. Place it, let it burn, then choose. You place the lantern in the spiral. Immediately, a whoomph of sound surrounds you like a furnace roaring to life somewhere below. The grooves light up glowing gold, then crimson, then deepest blue. The whole room pulses once, like it's drawing breath. The shelves begin to shift, no joke. The walls rotate silently, each shelf turning like a lazy carousel. The eyes spin slowly around the chamber, rearranging themselves, and something about the pattern feels familiar. You recognize it, but from where? Then it clicks. It's a star map, specifically an ancient one, like the kind used by Tibetan sky readers before modern astronomy got involved. You've seen a diagram in an old dusty museum somewhere in Kathmandu. The spiral, the turning eyes, it mimics a rotating sky wheel used to chart lunar alignments for festivals and prophecies. The kind of thing only a handful of surviving monks even know how to read anymore. Except this one isn't just predicting moon phases. It's predicting events. Every eye is a moment, every turn a possibility. And at the heart of it, you. The lantern flares and a new light spills from beneath the dais. A hidden compartment opens with a hiss of displaced air, revealing an object nestled in velvet folds of some unidentifiable fabric. A blade, not a sword, not quite. It's curved small, almost ritualistic. The hilt is wrapped in braided hair. Not thread, not leather, hair. The metal gleams faintly, reflecting your lantern's light with unsettling precision. You don't want to touch it, so obviously you do. The moment your fingers wrap around the handle, two things happen simultaneously. One, the whisper screams, not loud, not painful, just urgent, desperate. A burst of emotion that feels like warning grief and hunger all tangled together. And two, the chamber shifts. The stone floor beneath your feet goes translucent. Not fully just enough that you can see what lies below. Bodies, so many bodies, layered on top of each other like leaves on forest ground. All holding lanterns, all with eyes wide open, all facing upward. You step back instinctively, but the whisper tightens around your thoughts, holding you in place. These were the others, the previous bearers, and suddenly, one fringe legend takes on a whole new flavor of believability. The nameless path supposedly walked only by those chosen by the mountain. No one ever came back. It wasn't punishment, it was succession. The blade, the lantern, the map, all part of a test. You are not the first, but you might be the last. The whisper finally speaks words again, soft, simple. One must choose, one must remain. You glance at the shelves of eyes. They blink in unison. The lantern pulses like a heartbeat. The blade hums in your grip. Whatever this place is, whatever it wants, it's giving you the illusion of choice. Leave the lantern or the blade. One stays with the mountain. One walks forward. You stare at both the lantern glowing steadily in its spiral cradle, the blade vibrating faintly in your hand, like it's listening to your pulse and humming back in rhythm. And you realize something uncomfortable. This isn't about tools, it's about roles. One is a guide, one is a gatekeeper. You can't be both. The whisper slithers into your thoughts again. Not quite words, more like concepts sliding together into something that feels just close enough to language. One protects the path. One carries the memory. It doesn't help much, but hey, ambiguous riddles are basically standard issue in mystical Himalayan trials. You make your choice. You leave the blade behind. It rests easily in the spiral next to the lantern. And as your fingers release it, the chamber exhales. The eyes on the walls blink once, twice, then close. Every single one. The shelves spin again faster now. A low rumble begins beneath your feet. The floor glows brighter, the bodies below vanishing into a veil of light. Your lantern rises of its own accord, floating up to eye level, waiting. You take it, and the chamber splits. Literally. The walls fracture down the middle, each half sliding apart like sliding doors in a really dramatic secret villain lair. A narrow stone bridge extends forward, leading into an impossibly dark hallway, like someone hollowed out the idea of night itself. You cross it. You're not really sure why. You're not even sure if it's bravery anymore, maybe just momentum, or stubbornness, or the haunting feeling that if you don't move forward, those eyes might open again. And this time, they won't be as polite. The hallway is colder than the others. Not physically, but emotionally. It feels forgotten. Like this part of the temple doesn't even want to be remembered. Moss clings to the walls in patches, and here and there you see marking scratches, actually like someone tried to claw their way out. Cheerful. Then a door. Round. Iron. Locked, of course. But your lantern shines onto the center, illuminating a small relief carved into the metal. It's you. Well, it's a figure in your posture holding the lantern in their left hand. And their right hand, it's missing. Awesome. You reach out, slowly placing your left palm against the figure's lantern hand. The metal heats beneath your skin, not burning, just enough to sting. And then, with a hiss, the door slides inward, revealing the next chamber. Inside, it smells like something old. Not musty, more like parchment that remembers every word ever written on it. And you know instantly what this place is. It's an archive. Stacks of stones, etched slabs, bone tablets, brittle prayer flags that haven't fluttered in centuries. And at the center, a pedestal. Not a fancy one, just a squat block of marble with a single object resting on top. A journal. You cross the room slowly. There are no traps here, no tricks. The whisper is quiet now, like it's waiting to see what you'll do. The journal's cover is cracked, the leather darkened with age. You flip it open, half expecting the pages to crumble. They don't. The handwriting is neat, looping and familiar. You blink, because the entry reads, Day 94. The dream returned. The lantern guided me back through the hollow mouth. I saw the Watcher again. I think I am starting to forget my own name. Maybe that's what it wants. Maybe names are too heavy to carry back. Still no sign of the others. The blade is gone. I am alone. You scan down. Entry after entry detailing paths you haven't taken. Chambers you haven't entered. It's like a branching narrative carved into reality. Alternate versions of your journey echoing in ink. One journal entry notes a tunnel of bells that chime without wind. Another speaks of a lake that reflects memories, not faces. And then this one chills you. Day 0. If you are reading this, you chose the lantern. I chose the blade. I think I was the third. You may be the last. I hope you listened better than I did. You close the journal. And now a historical tidbit that doesn't feel like trivia anymore. Tibetan sky burials weren't just about letting vultures reclaim the flesh. They were about releasing the nameless self back into the landscape. Your body vanished, but your story, that stayed. Historians still argue whether these rites were meant to honor the dead or to prevent them from coming back. Either way, names mattered. A lot. You start to notice things now. The stone slabs around the room, their names, hundreds of them. Some carved deep and bold, others barely scratched in. Some in languages no one spoken for 1,000 years. You check the back of the journal, a blank page. You know what it's asking. You take the stub of a charcoal stick left in the spine and write your name. Not a full signature, just the name that feels most like you. The one that carries your voice, your choices, your weight. The whisper returns almost warm this time. Not words, just a slow nod of approval. You turn and a final door has opened. This one isn't made of stone or metal. It's woven from roots, wet, tangled and alive. They part slowly as you approach, revealing a staircase spiraling downward, cut into glowing obsidian. The light from your lantern dims, not in strength, but in contrast. Whatever lies ahead shines brighter than you expected, and from deep below a sound rises, not a whisper, not a hum, it's breathing. The mountain is awake, and it's waiting for you. You descend. Each step on the obsidian staircase clicks softly, echoing like someone behind you is mimicking your pace, a half-second late. But there's no one there, at least not anyone you can see. The breathing grows louder, not labored, not monstrous, just steady, deep, like a sleeping animal so large it forgets the world exists outside its dreams. And the more you listen, the more you begin to think it's not the mountain breathing, it's the temple. The walls are slick here. The air is thick with condensation and minerals, and when you drag your hand across the stone, your skin comes away dusted with golden flecks. Mica probably, or maybe powdered memory. Who's to say? You reach the bottom. The chamber before you is vast and spherical, almost like the inside of a geode. But instead of crystals, the walls are covered in carvings, spirals, eyes, mouths, all looped into one another in hypnotic patterns. At the center floats a massive glassy orb, about the size of a small car suspended by nothing. Your lantern pulses in your grip, like it recognizes this place, or fears it. Either way, you're committed now. You step forward and the orb reacts. It shifts not physically, but visually. The surface ripples like water, revealing flashes of images beneath. A mountain trail, a frozen pass, a younger version of yourself hiking alone with frost on your lashes. A face behind you that vanishes when you turn. The orb is memory, but not yours, not entirely. You're standing inside a memory archive, one carved into the base of a Himalayan temple, buried beneath forgotten rituals and frost. Historians believe some Tibetan monasteries used oral labyrinths, ritual journeys taken in complete darkness to pass wisdom across generations. But this isn't just oral tradition. This is a living map of every seeker who's ever made it this far. You place your hand on the orb. It's cold at first, then burning, then something between. And suddenly, you're inside it, not physically, but mentally, emotionally. You feel yourself yanked through a series of lives, each one crashing into the next like waves. A monk who refused the lantern and wandered forever. A girl from Darjeeling who spoke to shadows. A Canadian tourist who disappeared in 1987, leaving behind only an open journal with the phrase, "It said my name," scrawled repeatedly. And then, yourself. Not now you, but future you. Alone on a trail, frostbitten and quiet. The lantern still glows, but your eyes are hollow, empty. You're mumbling something over and over. You lean closer to hear, "I forgot the name, I forgot the name." Then silence. The orb releases you, and you stagger back panting. The lantern flares protectively, surrounding you in a halo of golden light. The whisper in your head returns, not menacing, not guiding, just present. It says there is no going back. You already knew that. Across the chamber, a new path reveals itself, arched roots pulled aside like the throat of a tree yawning open. Inside, the air is warmer, thick with the scent of cinnamon, old earth and candle smoke. You move forward, and there, at the end of a long corridor, is a circular chamber lined with niches, small stone hollows, each cradling a lantern. Some flicker faintly. Most are dark. One niche is empty, yours. You place your lantern into the space. As it settles, it dims and then explodes into lighter beams shooting straight up through the ceiling like a signal flare to the gods. The entire temple groans, not collapsing, waking. Roots crawl along the walls, stones shift. Somewhere above you, bells start to chime on their own, distant but clear. You've completed something, triggered a cycle, but the whisper isn't done. You turn and there it is, the figure. Not the same as before, this one is taller, more human-shaped. Its limbs are proportional now, and its face, it looks like you. Not exactly, but close enough that your breath catches. The eyes are the same shape. The shoulders, the stance, the tilt of the head, but its skin is etched in lines, thousands of them, writing, etchings, names. It steps forward and speaks, not aloud into your mind the way memories do when you suddenly remember a dream from 10 years ago with perfect clarity for no reason. This is the echo, the keeper. Every lantern has a voice. You want to speak, you don't. Words don't work the same here. You think your response. What now? It doesn't smile, but there's something kind in its presence. Like moss on stone. Like being remembered in someone's quiet prayer. You stay, or you carry. The temple must choose. You blink, and that's when you notice the floor. It's a mirror, and your reflection is walking away. You with the lantern stepping back up the staircase, disappearing slowly. The glow growing dimmer. You look at your hands, empty, no lantern. You've made your choice, and it's not to carry. The keeper nods once, and the chamber darkens, not with fear but finality, quirky tidbit time. Some remote Himalayan traditions believe that every soul casts two shadows, one that walks with you and one that waits where you will eventually die. Maybe this is yours. Maybe you're someone else's. Historians still argue whether memory is a linear thing or a place you can physically visit if you know the trail. You're pretty sure it's the latter. The keeper raises its hand, and with a sudden rush, like a door opening underwater, you're back standing not in the orb chamber, not in the corridor, but on the original ledge near the mountain's edge. Wind howls around you. Dawn is breaking. Pink light spills across the snow. The lantern is gone, but in your hand, a name. You whisper it. It feels right, like a password or a promise. The temple doesn't answer, but it remembers. You stand very still. The wind has teeth this high up, and now that your lantern's warmth is gone, you feel the bite of every gust in your bones. But there's no going back into the temple. That door, if it even was a door, has sealed, erased, or maybe never existed at all. Behind you is just smooth cliff face. No path, no carvings, just rock. The only thing left is down, so you descend. At first it's easy. Your muscles remember the climb, and the sunrise paints the snow a syrupy orange, making the world look like it's been dipped in honey. It's beautiful, yes, but also eerily quiet. Too quiet. You keep expecting birdsong or the crunch of some unseen yak herder nearby, but no. Just the wind, the crunch of your boots, and the faintest echo of something following you. A memory, maybe. You pass the place where the monastery should be. Gone. Nothing but pine trees and a patch of sun-warmed earth. And you laugh just once because honestly, of course it's gone. Things that old don't hang around once they've been seen. It's not their job to stay put for selfies. As the slope evens out, you spot something ahead. A cluster of travelers sitting on bright foam pads, unpacking trail mix and muttering in French. Normal people. Real people. You watch them for a moment from behind a rock, just to make sure they don't flicker or hover or turn inside out. They don't. One of them sees you, raises a hand. You wave back. You've re-entered the world. But something's off. You try to speak just hello, something small and easy, but the words don't feel like they belong to you. Your mouth moves. The sound comes out. But the voice, it's not the one you remember. It's like you borrowed it from someone older. The hikers don't notice, but you do. Still, you sit with them, share some dried mango, pretend to stretch. When they ask where you came from, you say North Trail, which is technically true if you consider up through the guts of an ancient memory temple to count as a trail. One of them, a woman with an accent you can't place, asks if you heard the bells. You pause. The bells, she nods. This morning very early, temple bells. No one else heard them. You just smile. She shrugs and changes the subject. Later, as you hike with them, you realize something strange. You remember each twist and turn before you see it. Not like déjà vu, more like walking through a dream you haven't had yet. Like your body already knows where to go because it went this way before, just in someone else's story. Here's your mainstream historical nugget for today. In the early 1900s, explorer Alexandra David Nell claimed to witness a monk in Tibet project his consciousness into the form of a tulpa, a thought-made person. Some called it mysticism. Others called it madness. She said it followed her for days until she sent it away. The scholarly world still very much in disagreement. Your theory, maybe she picked up a lantern. By late afternoon, you've left the high mountains and reached a ridge that offers your first real glimpse of the world again. Villages like clusters of marbles in the valley below. Smoke curling from chimney stacks. A goat screaming somewhere. Civilization. You should feel relief, but instead you feel watched. Not in a creepy, there's someone in the trees way. It's more like the mountain itself is still paying attention. Like your favorite story, it hasn't quite finished yet. You press forward. At a rest hut, there's a guest book. You flip through it absently while sipping warm tea that tastes like soot and spices. The names blur together until one leaps off the page. It's yours, but not your handwriting, just the name and a date, tomorrow. You close the book. Don't freak out. It's probably a joke or a coincidence or someone else with your exact name visiting a hut in the Himalayas a day after you wrote nothing at all. Sure, totally common. You make camp just beyond the tree line. It's the first night you've had alone since everything. You curl into your sleeping bag, tug your jacket over your face, and listen to the forest settle around you. Owls hoot, trees creak. Something very large breathes in the distance. Hopefully a yak. Then midnight. Your eyes snap open. Not because of sound, because of absence. Total silence. No wind, no insects. Just the dark. You sit up, and there it is, at the edge of the trees. A lantern, lit, not yours, but one very much like it, glowing low and gold in the branches. No figure holding it, no footsteps, just light. And again that whisper, not out loud, not in your head, somewhere between. There are more of us. You blink, and the lantern is gone. In the morning, your boots are wet. You weren't near water. One sock is gone. You don't remember getting up, but you feel rested, almost peaceful, like something ancient tucked you in and watched the stars with you. You walk again, and now, with every village you pass, every shrine you glimpse behind a curtain of fog, you wonder how many lanterns are out there, how many have been found and forgotten, how many people walk among us, glowing quietly in ways no one else can see. Here's a fringe fun fact. There's a tiny museum in Kathmandu dedicated to imaginary explorers. It displays maps with no locations, journals filled with unreadable scripts, and a pair of boots said to have walked to the roof of memory. Tourists love it, but no one remembers how it started. The front desk is always empty. You hike down further now, and the world grows louder. Radios, motorbikes, vendors arguing over fruit prices. You're back, sort of, but every now and then, just before you fall asleep, you feel the pull. Not a memory, not a command, just a lantern glowing somewhere in the fog, waiting. You make it all the way to Namche Bazaar before the strangeness catches up again. It's loud here, like aggressively normal. Porters shout over crates of yak butter. Children run barefoot between the prayer wheels. Tourists in puffy jackets crowd tiny cafes taking selfies with mugs of sweet masala tea. You keep your hood up, face tucked down, blending in. Or trying to. But there's a static in your head now. A soft buzzing that began sometime after the guestbook incident and hasn't stopped since. Not painful, just distracting. Like a faint radio signal only you can hear. And it gets louder when you pass certain people, especially old ones, especially the blind. You check your reflection in a dusty shop window. Same face, same tired eyes, but behind you in the glass, that same flickering glow from the lantern, still there. You wonder if it's permanent, or just a really intense form of mountain weirdness. Because yes, scientifically speaking, altitude sickness can cause hallucinations, but they usually don't last this long, or whisper in languages that haven't been spoken in 500 years, which brings you to your historical tidbit. Of the day, the Burn religion predating Buddhism in Tibet was full of practices built around sacred lights and mountain spirits. They believed the world was woven from energy strands, each knot vibrating with memory. Some even claimed that certain objects once awakened could act like tuning forks, revealing parts of reality normal eyes couldn't see. Guess who's now the proud owner of one big golden tuning fork? You try to sleep in a cheap hostel, but the buzzing is louder here. Not just in your head, but in the walls. It's subtle, like something whispering just behind the drywall. At one point, you open the closet half expecting to find the lantern, but it's just a mop. That sigh of relief you exhale, totally unconvincing. In the morning, the weather changes. Fog again. It rolls through the streets like it's looking for something. You wrap your scarf tighter, step into a bakery for warmth, and order something called a yak cheese croissant, which tastes exactly like what it sounds like. There's a monk at the next table. He doesn't look at you, but he speaks. Did you see the temple? You blink. What? He sips his tea. Up there, where the trail vanishes, you look around the cafe. No one else reacts. No one hears him. You lean closer. You know about it. He sets down his cup, finally turning to meet your eyes. His irises are cloudy white, blind, but you feel seen. We all see it, he says. Eventually. Then he smiles, stands and leaves. No footsteps, no door sound. Gone. You finish your croissant anyway because you paid for it, and you're not about to let ghost monks waste your money. Later that day, you visit the local museum half out of curiosity, half because your legs need a break. It's small, just a few dusty exhibits on Sherpa culture, mountaineering disasters, and an awkward animatronic yeti in a corner no one talks about. But then in a side room you find it, a display case, inside a lantern. Not your lantern exactly, but close, too close. Same ridges, same cloudy glass. The tag beneath it says, donated anonymously circa 1894. Origin unknown. Said to glow in fog. Your pulse kicks up. You glance around. No one's watching. You reach out. Just a fingertip on the glass. And for a second, just one, you see it lit. Faint gold, faint hum. Then it's gone. Historians still argue whether this particular artifact is genuine or just a Victorian curiosity. Some claim it belonged to a British officer who vanished in the Langtang Valley. Others say it washed up after a flood with no explanation. The museum staff, they unplug it at night, just in case. You leave quickly. You sleep in the mountains again that night. Not because you have to, but because something's pulling. A memory, a whisper. You hike out of the town, past the edge of comfort, until the stars return in full sharp brilliance above you. No electricity, no sound, just the crunch of boots and the hum inside your chest. You find a ledge, roll out your bag, and there at the edge of the fog, You see them, lanterns, dozens, maybe more, floating, flickering, stationary. You realize with a sort of cold clarity that they're people, each one tied to someone like you. Carriers, listeners, walkers. One figure steps closer. A woman this time, young, wrapped in ceremonial robes too ancient to place. Her lantern floats in front of her, tethered by nothing. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. You already know they're not here to haunt you. They're here to keep you company, to pass on what they've seen, to welcome you, because once you've seen the light, the world never quite dims again. And here's a weird fringe tidbit. There's a rumored lost census buried somewhere in the British Library, archives a handwritten ledger with names and locations of all known carriers of the lantern. Some names repeat through centuries. Some blink out only to return with new dates and different handwriting. Some names are written in languages no longer spoken. You're not sure if your name's in it, but you wouldn't be surprised. The woman nods once. Her light flares bright, then extinguishes, and she vanishes into mist. And just like that, you're alone again, except for the glow still hanging in the air. Not hers, yours. By morning, the fog hasn't lifted. If anything, it's thicker. It curls around the mountain like a coiled dragon, silent but breathing. And somewhere inside you, that hum is still there, calmer now, but ever present, like a heartbeat you didn't know you had until it got louder. You pack up your things and start walking, not because you know where you're going, but because the trail knows. That's how it feels now, like the mountains have started making decisions for you. Every fork in the path feels predetermined. Every gust of wind pushes you the right way. The lantern nestled carefully in your pack never bumps or shifts. It's as if it's floating back there waiting. Hours pass. The sun doesn't break through. And at some point, maybe 3 hours in, maybe 5, you realize you haven't seen another soul, except one. It's late afternoon when the fog begins to part just enough for a glimpse of movement. Up ahead, a silhouette trudges slowly. You call out. No answer. You speed up. They do too. The faster you go, the farther they drift, always just out of reach. You recognize the rhythm, the gait. It's you, but it's not. It's another version. Same build, same scarf, same boots. The figure never turns around, but you know it. You know it. And then just like that, it disappears around a bend. When you follow, there's no one. Only a stone marker barely visible in the mist. You kneel to brush it off. No inscription. Just a carved symbol, an open eye surrounded by radiating lines. The symbol from your lantern's base. This is when you start to feel it again, like time is less a straight line and more a coiled spring. Maybe you've passed this place before. Maybe you haven't yet. The trail twists through space and memory in ways no GPS could ever map. Here's your historical gem in the 14th century. A Nepalese mystic named Seringrolma wrote of a thin place near the Dudkoshi River where time could slip sideways and dreams might walk beside you. She claimed her vision came after following a light in the fog for 7 nights straight. Most modern scholars dismiss her work as poetic hallucination, but you're starting to think she was just being honest. As you continue, the terrain grows stranger. The rocks seem too symmetrical, the trees too spaced like someone arranged them. At one point, a boulder hums softly when you walk past. Not from your lantern, from it, like it's recognizing you. You stop for a moment, resting against a moss-covered stump. That's when you hear it again, the whisper, not in your head this time, behind you. You spin around, and there it is, a child, maybe 8, maybe 10 barefoot, in the snow, standing calmly, like the cold doesn't matter. Eyes too large for the face, hair like river weed. In her hands, a tiny replica of your lantern. She raises it. It flickers once, then goes dark. You blink. She's gone. You're not scared. Not really. This doesn't feel threatening. It feels curated, like someone or something is slowly introducing you to a deeper reality one flicker at a time. Remember that fringe theory about ancient tuning forks from the museum? Here's a weirder one. Some Himalayan shamans believed in emotional topography, that intense feelings could reshape terrain. Rage could crack stone. Grief could summon fog. Joy could make flowers bloom where snow should be. They left offerings in caves, not for gods, but for the mountain's memory. That starts to make sense now, because you've been thinking about someone you lost. And right after the thought blooms, the trail shifts and leads you straight to a shrine you didn't know existed. It's small, hidden behind a rockfall, but pristine, dry despite the mist. Inside a photo, water-stained but clear enough. It's them, the person you lost, laughing. Their hand is extended, not holding anything, just reaching, like they knew you'd be here someday. You drop to your knees. You don't cry. You can't. Something about the place feels like it absorbs tears before they fall. Historians still argue whether shrines like this were real or spontaneous hallucinations of altitude-addled minds. But you know better now. You light your lantern for the first time. And this time it's different. It doesn't just glow. It sings. A low single-note tone like a flute made of breath and shadow. The fog reacts. It pulses outward, forming patterns, circles, symbols, paths. You follow the first one without hesitation. The mountain opens again. This time no trail. Just a sheer drop of scree and snow. You should stop. You should turn around. But you don't. Because up ahead the lantern glows brighter. Not yours. Another. And another. A trail of them, like breadcrumb stars, leading toward a narrow crevice in the rock face. You squeeze through sideways, scraping your coat. The tunnel's barely wide enough to breathe, but it widens. And then you step into a chamber, a dome of smooth stone. Carved walls glowing with faint golden lines. Dozens of lanterns floating mid-air, all humming, all in rhythm. And in the center, a pedestal, waiting. The hum in your chest now matches theirs perfectly. You remove your lantern and place it gently on the stone. The humming stops. Everything stops. You breathe. The lantern flickers once, twice, then lifts, all on its own. It joins the others, and you truly hear a voice in the dark. You're not lost. You're finally found. The moment stretches longer than time should allow. The floating lanterns stay perfectly still, suspended like starlight, held in place by an unseen breath. You don't dare blink, not because you're afraid something will vanish, but because you want to give this moment your full attention. It's not every day that a cave full of antique lanterns whispers cosmic affirmations at you. You reach out not to grab one, just to feel. The air hums around your fingertips like the vibration from a distant bell. Warm but not hot. Familiar but unplaceable. You pull your hand back, half expecting something dramatic. Maybe a thunderclap or a secret door sliding open. But nothing changes. And that's when it really hits you. This place doesn't need to impress you. It knows. You sit cross-legged on the cold stone floor, eyes flicking from one lantern to the next. Each seems to carry a faint, distinct note like a chorus frozen mid-harmony. And slowly, you begin to realize they're not just lanterns. They're memories, yours maybe, others almost definitely. Moments preserved, woven into light, a kind of spiritual archive. And here's the eerie part: you recognize one. It's your grandmother's kitchen, not literally. This isn't some full-blown Pixar memory dive, but the essence of it. The warmth, the scent of cardamom, the tiny potted plant she always forgot to water but somehow never died. It pulses within a blue-lit lantern in the back corner. You smile. Here's your historical tidbit. Some scholars believe Tibetan butter lamps aren't just religious offerings, but mnemonic devices, literal light-based triggers meant to guide wandering spirits toward enlightenment. The more personal the offering, the brighter the soul's return. It's a theory often dismissed as romantic nonsense by Western academics, but, well, you're sitting in a cave full of singing memory lanterns, so one of them dims slightly, just for a second, then a different one brightens, and like that, a new scent fills the air, juniper smoke and wet wool. A new memory, not yours, flows through the space. A funeral. Stone steps. A young girl clenching her jaw so tightly her teeth crack. The scene dissolves just as quickly. Fringe belief alert in some obscure Bon tradition's fog is said to be a kind of grief made visible, condensed sorrow, rising from the bones of the earth. Monks would chant through fog, not to part it, but to listen to it. Because grief, when honored, becomes guidance. You start to understand what the fog's been doing all along. It's not a barrier, it's a bridge. And the lanterns, they're not just showing you memories, they're listening for them too. Absorbing, interpreting, syncing. Like spiritual USB ports, you stand leg-stiff knees protesting and make your way toward the cave's far end. There's a narrow corridor barely noticeable unless you're looking from the right angle. You squeeze through. The passage spirals down in a gentle helix. The air changes, not colder, just heavier, like you're descending into the lungs of the mountain. Eventually, the walls open into another chamber, this one utterly silent. No lanterns, no glow, just one stone chair. And on it a figure. You pause. The figure is cloaked, head bowed, hands resting on the arms of the chair like a statue. It doesn't move. You take a step forward, nothing. Then another, still nothing. Finally, you're close enough to see its face. It's yours, but older, much older. Weathered in ways your current face hasn't earned yet. The eyes are closed, the skin around them marked with deep lines like the kind formed from equal parts smiling and sorrow. The figure breathes, slowly, deeply, and that's when it speaks, without opening its mouth. You brought the light back. You walked the path alone. You blink. It speaks again, voice as deep as tectonic plates. But now you must decide. Will you stay and remember, or return and forget? You do that thing people always do in dreams. You look around for help, like someone might appear with a clipboard and explain the choices. No one does, because this is your decision. You kneel before the chair, not out of submission, but reverence. This version of you, it's not perfect, it's tired, but it radiates something you haven't felt in a long time. Peace. The kind that doesn't come from answers but from acceptance. Historians still argue whether meditation caves like this used by Himalayan ascetics for months or years at a time were meant for enlightenment or escape. Some say the monks vanished not into divine truth, but into their own minds, never to return. But others believe they re-emerged wiser, lighter, more whole. You look one last time at your seated self, then stand. You choose the second option, to return. Not because it's easier, but because there's more to do. You turn back. The lantern chamber waits for you. And now, as you pass through, each light bows gently. The tones shift slightly, harmonizing. They remember you. The tunnel squeezes again. The mountain exhales. And the fog outside is different now. Less dense, more forgiving. Like it knows you don't need to be tested anymore. You descend the path slowly, each step firmer, more certain. You don't check the time. You don't need to. The world is still there, mountains, frost, wind. But you've changed. The lantern is gone, but its warmth stays in your chest. You'll never see the cave again, not like that. But every time you look at fog now, you'll wonder, is it grief? Is it memory? Is it waiting to sing? The walk back to the village is both shorter and longer than you remember. The path seems straighter, but the journey stretches out like the mountain wants to keep you a bit longer, whispering its final secrets in the hush between footfalls. Your boots crunch through frost-glazed moss, and the air, though still biting, no longer bites you. It exhales beside you, gentle now, like an old friend escorting you home after a long night out. Behind you, the fog curls around boulders and cedar trees, then retreats again as though satisfied. It's no longer following you, it's watching, but without judgment. Like a teacher who knows you've passed the test, but won't tell you your grade. You pause once, just once, to glance back at the ridge. There's no glow, no sign of lanterns, just a stone throat swallowed by a cloud. Still, your chest holds that warmth steady and unshakable. By the time you spot the edge of the village, those first crooked prayer flags swaying like sleepy sentries, you half expect everything to have changed. Thatched roofs replaced by shining temples, goat herds levitating, Wi-Fi, but no. Life ticks on exactly as before, which is its own kind of comfort. You pass a man chopping firewood. He nods at you. Not out of recognition, just that universal yup, you exist nod. You give him a smile, a small one. One that says, I've just seen a glowing archive of humanity's soul light, no big deal. He goes back to his wood. Inside the tea house, the fire still burns. The stools still creak. The cat in the corner still ignores everyone, a masterclass in indifference. You slide into your usual seat. The old woman behind the counter, yes. The one with the eyebrows that look like sentient caterpillars, pours you tea without a word. She doesn't ask where you've been, or why you smell faintly like cedar smoke and ancient secrets. But she lingers a second longer than usual before sliding the cup toward you. There's a rumor you recall that she once walked into the mountain herself, decades ago. No one really talks about it, but now you wonder if her tea has always tasted faintly of lantern light. You sip. The warmth slides down your throat, settling behind your ribs. It doesn't burn. It invites. Mainstream historical footnote time. Himalayan tea houses have existed along trekking routes for centuries. They weren't just rest stops, they were gossip hubs, spiritual clinics, disaster shelters, and informal town halls. When the weather turned, everyone gathered there. And when someone didn't return from the peaks, these rooms were where people whispered theories, some logical, some less so, some involving glowing lanterns and caves that remember your name. And speaking of theories, one weird fringe claim comes to mind in a now lost manuscript attributed to a wandering tantric mystic. There's mention of shadows that carry light forward. Some scholars dismissed it as metaphorical babble. But tonight, you wonder, were they talking about you? Because something is definitely different. As you sit there, legs stretched toward the fire, you realize you're listening more. Not just with ears, with skin breath bones. The creak of floorboards. The drip of melting frost from a roof beam. The way the wind leans into the building, not to knock it over, but to say, I was here. You head upstairs that night with tired limbs and a mind too full to sleep. But the bed, hard as it is, welcomes you like a warm, familiar silence. No dreams come, not right away. But when they do, it's not in images, it's in songs, gentle harmonic layered in lantern tones. You don't even try to understand the language, you just listen. And the songs, like the fog, do not ask you to decode them. They simply exist. Outside your window, the fog creeps along the rooftops, but it never enters. It doesn't need to. It's already left its gift. In the morning, when you pack your bag, you find something in your coat pocket. Not a relic, not a stone, just a thread of gold, almost too fine to see, but it's there, woven through the seam. You don't remember it being there before. Historians still argue whether gold was ever used in Tibetan lantern wicking, or if that's just a myth propagated by spiritual tourism pamphlets. But either way, you're keeping this coat. Dry clean be damned. You don't leave the village right away. You take your time, a few more teas, a few more fog walks, because the light might have come from that cave shore. But now you know it's inside you too, ready to be kindled whenever you choose to listen to silence, to grief, to the eerie joy of remembering. And so you stay a little longer, not because you're lost, but because you're finally found. By the time you finally lace up your boots and shoulder your bag, the fog is thinner than it's been in days. Like it too has had enough mystery for 1 week. It clings only to the hollows, now soft gauzy ribbons that twirl around tree roots, and village fence posts whispering final goodbyes. The villagers don't make a fuss. They rarely do. A few nods. One distracted wave from the goat herd boy with the slingshot. He aims at a stone and misses on purpose. You grin. You cross the same rope bridge you came in on, but the sway doesn't unsettle you this time. It feels steady even with the wind pressing against your jacket. The mountains behind you gleam under early sunlight peaks like teeth in a sleeping giant's jaw. You pause one last time to look back. Still no sign of the cave, still no sign of the lantern. But you don't need them to be visible. You know they're there. As you descend into the lower hills past gnarled oaks and prayer wheels turning in lazy circles, you start to notice things you didn't before. A bird's call that ends in a strange trill. A stone carved with an unfamiliar spiral. The wind passing through the trees in a rhythm that almost matches the hum from the lantern cave. It's not magic exactly. It's just awareness. Like your senses have been cleaned reset to factory settings. You hear more, smell more, think less. You camp one last night on the trail just outside a cluster of crumbling mani stones. You lay in your sleeping bag, staring up at a sky you once thought was dark. But now, even here, you can make out the subtlest glow in the upper atmosphere, like the sky itself is carrying a little of that lantern light diffused and patient. A shooting star slashes past. You make a wish without meaning to. That night, you dream not of the cave, not of the figure, but of a city made entirely of light. Not shining, not blinding, just calm, built from beams and breath. You walk through it barefoot. No one is there, but you don't feel alone. One mainstream historical fact to tuck in, before we go in certain Himalayan traditions, particularly among Sherpa and Bompo lineages, dreams were seen as messages not just from the subconscious, but from the land itself. Mountains were dream beings, fog a form of communication. You didn't interpret dreams, you responded to them, like a phone call or a warning. And speaking of warnings, remember how you probably weren't going to survive this story? Well, you did, mostly. There's one last thing you notice as you near civilization. Roads start to appear, power lines, cars even. But your pace doesn't change. You're not rushing, you're gliding. And that's when you realize something has changed for good. You don't need noise anymore. You'll still laugh at memes and blast music on road trips, sure. You're not a monk. But deep down, a part of you now craves silence. Not the awkward, teeth-gritting silence of elevators and breakups. The good kind. The kind that hums, that listens back. You board a bus eventually, sit near the window, watch the mountains shrink, and just before you drift off into sleep, you catch your reflection in the glass. Your eyes, they're yours, obviously. Still tired, still human. But for a fraction of a second, you could swear they reflect a light that's not from the bus, not from the sun. A faint golden flicker, then it's gone. Or maybe it isn't. Historians still argue whether certain Himalayan cave sites were ever used for ritual light ceremonies, or if those are just tourist brochure embellishments. There's no definitive record, no journal, No names etched into stone saying I saw the lantern and it whispered to me. Only quiet stories, glances, things found in dreams and half-sung lullabies. But you know what you saw. You felt it. The lantern that glows alone in the Himalayan fog isn't there to be found. It's there to be earned. It doesn't light the way for you. It teaches you how to light your own path. And maybe if you ever return, it'll be waiting. Same place, same glow. Just a little deeper in the fog. Wind down 300 words. So now take a slow, full breath and let it go. You're no longer on the trail. No longer climbing ridge lines or ducking into secret caverns. You're safe now, lying still warm under your blanket. The world around you softening into shadows and slow motion. Let the sounds of the village fade. Let the fog curl around your thoughts, not to confuse them, but to cradle them. Let the memory of that golden lantern, the one that burned with stories instead of flames, drift gently behind your eyes. You don't need to carry everything you've seen tonight, just a sliver. Just enough to remind you that there are still places where light waits in silence, where mystery doesn't chase you but welcomes you. And maybe tomorrow, or the next day, when you walk through your own world city, or forest or hallway, you'll hear that faint hum again. The one that says you're being listened to, not by people, but by something older, quieter, kinder. You are not lost. You are exactly where you should be. And the fog, it's not here to block your path. It's here to slow you down just long enough for the light to catch up. So close your eyes now, soft and easy. Let the lantern stay lit just a moment longer, in your breath, in your heart, and sleep. Good night.